News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
And I'm Allan Gilbreth with darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, and for your nature enthusiasts, a happy 100th birthday to Bryce Canyon National Park in Utah.
Yes.
Okay. How do you have, okay. That's when the park opened?
Yes, when the park first opened, was established in 1928.
That's pretty cool. Sorry, I'm just doing the math in my head. But yeah, happy birthday. I heard Utah's a pretty awesome place. Never made it there, but it's supposed to be really beautiful out there.
It is stunningly picturesque. There are a lot of places when you're driving across where unexpectedly the vista just opens up and you're like, and look, we're in a Western.
Yeah, no kidding. So.
So like, you expect to hear the Sergio Leone music any minute.
Somehow I feel like that's an apropos comment there, Allan. But anyway, if you want to call and weigh in, and if you've ever been to Utah or if you've got any thoughts about that.
You're from Utah.
If you're from Utah, give us a call or text at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. And we also invite you to go to Tool Talk Radio on Facebook and check out the action over there. I've already posted the must-have item of the week, which is something that it's one of those life-saving items, Allan. I don't mean literally. I mean let's call it a sanity-saving item.
I'm gonna say sanity-saving is a good description.
Yeah,
I wish it was life-saving. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. So, but Allan, I know. Let's just get this. Let's get this out there. You've been very excited about a new development in the. Let's call this on the data side of Tool Talk Radio. Is that right?
Yes, if you want to call it that, or at least the international access side of Tool Talk Radio.
Okay.
Tool Talk Radio is now a fully featured podcast on YouTube and has its own playlist. So you can, with a single click, you can dive in and listen to 150 hours.
Okay, there you go. So it's already, I think what you showed me shows, I mean, we've been there forever, and we're on Spotify as well, but this, the way it was structured on YouTube seems a little more organized, a little more, boom, boom. If you literally want to binge listen, you hit one button and it's going to just play for 150 hours.
I mean, I know they could, but should they?
Yeah. Yeah, we have no idea whether you should do it or not, but
Max,
we do not, like in the disclaimers at the beginning, they talk money. We do not hold you. We don't have any liability over what happens to your brain.
Yeah.
Nope. But you can binge us honestly for hours and hours and hours.
So that's that's Allan's baby, and he's been working on that diligently. But it's even more structured, and it looks good. I got to give you credit. I hate giving Allan credit, but it does look good there, my friend. So, all right. Allan, speaking of giving you credit for things, Allan's Week in Review, we're just going to call this It's Heavier Than It Looks.
Oh, yeah.
That's a
in
tease.
So many ways.
I hope we'll have time to get to some tool tales. We ran out of time last week. I think I just started unpacking my story of flying sparks with my grinding wheel stuff. I left out a few details that I wanted to throw in there, and Max has a story called All or Nothing, AWL.
I can't wait.
You're okay. Anyway, so we got that. It looks like, let's see what else we've got. Allan, you said it's time to pre-garden.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. Nothing more riveting to me than talking about gardening, although somehow you always make it, relevant and interesting. So we'll get on that.
Not everybody hates dirt like you do,
I
Joe.
know. Yeah, exactly.
But I also have you a wonderful story of acorns just to make you feel at home.
Okay. And also if maybe I shouldn't over tease this, but somewhere in the near future we're going to be talking about. You said the laws of thermodynamics have been they've been rewritten or changed or something.
They have been updated.
Okay, updated.
And a lot of people are going, all right, who cares about the laws of physics? This is going to have some major ramifications for a lot of the tools that we use every single day.
I mean, physics are our bread and butter, Alan.
Yes.
If you work in a home, what do you think's going on in there?
Absolutely.
Ask Larry Brown about physics and everything. So, okay. And there's more to discuss, so we're not going to tease anymore. Oh, I'm sorry. I left the biggie out, Alan. In great moments in building history, we're going to finally, I've been pacing myself. I didn't want to just use this one right out of the gate, but it's due and it's time to discuss it. The St. Louis Gateway Arch, which, I mean, that's ever since I first encountered that structure, it's been one of my. It's fascinating. It hits all of the things that we discuss on the show about minimalism, structure, just endurance.
There's a lot of physics involved in this thing.
You talk
too.
about physics. It's a really, and I dare say everybody. I think most people in the Mid-South, if you've made any trips up north, you've probably driven by the St. Louis Arch. Maybe you've gone in the St. Louis Arch. So if you've got any St. Louis Arch stories or reminiscences, by all means, this is a good day to chime in. So, all right, Alan, before we get to any of that, though, I got to let me give a quick shout out to our. I want to give out a shout out to some of our more ambitious texters, you could say. Real quick, Robbie sent me a nice message about with a portable leaf blower. To me, it looked like it was battery powered, which that's the route I'm going. He just said a must-have for anyone doing outdoor work, and I got to agree with him. That a portable leaf blower, those things, you know,
I have 3 of them.
The only thing we've said about those is someday they need to invent a quiet leaf blower. The electric ones are much quieter than the other ones, but one day they're going to come up with a way to make it kind of like those Dyson fans or something. But it's true. I mean, I'm trying to think of what I did in the days before we had leaf blowers. I think there was a lot of raking, a lot of brushing, a lot of sweeping.
Well, you know, I work mostly in commercial areas, and I got news for you. Of the battery-powered leaf blower drastically changed working in company courtyards and that type of thing, because you can't carry gasoline through the house.
Yeah,
right. You're not supposed to bring
idea.
gasoline through the building,
right?
So now with the battery powered stuff, and I got news for you. I was using one on a house we were building not too long ago because the crew had been neglecting getting all the sawdust out. Opened up all the doors and windows, put on a nice mask, fired that little darling up, and you know what? About 20 minutes later, it was clean.
Yeah, that's how I clean my garage. I just open the door and
I've
blast
seen
it
you
out.
do that.
Yeah, it works. Why not, man? So yeah, thanks, Robbie. I wholeheartedly agree. So, but also we've got to acknowledge another one of our loyal texters, Max. So. Jeez, he's got his own theme music. Agent 732 really stepped up their game. We don't know whether it's a he or she. I don't know. But I got this message on Facebook the other day, Alan, and it's got apparently Agent 732, who we've immortalized here on the show, is now created their own Facebook page. And there's this little spy-looking dude with in the thumbnail.
Man, you know, I love it when fans have just way too much fun with this.
Or too much time on their hands or something.
Something like that.
But Agent 732 looks like, okay, so there was a video, no real speaking, no anything else, but it looked like a sink that was flushing or was draining the opposite way.
It was. And I will confirm from personal research that sink was in New Zealand.
Well, personal research, they confirmed. They said,
no, they put it on there.
You researched by looking at their message.
I read the message and it went, hey, this is a sink from a friend of mine in New Zealand.
But Agent 732, it sounds like you got your own walk-up music, too. Max is really having fun with this. But, yeah, that's the kind of pointless and time-wasting and, whatever sort of messages we look for. I mean,
however, it does prove your point about the importance of an actual planetary force that has so much to do with what we do every day.
Well,
because it really does affect the plumbing. It really does affect skyscrapers. It really does affect how concrete cures.
Well, we've talked about it. I mean, I told you I was listening to that the podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson saying if you're a field goal kicker or if you're in sports, the Coriolis effect actually plays a role. It might be down to an inch, but how many times have we seen a possible home run that hit the foul ball post or it hits the field goal, uprights or something. So yeah, it's worth paying attention to.
And for every golfer out there, you now have a beautiful excuse for that slice.
Yeah, the Coriolis effect, like we say, you neglect it at your own peril. But Agent 732, I'm going to be looking forward to. I'm going to be following your Facebook career with great interest.
I mean, his reconnaissance missions.
Yeah.
Well, we're saying he, but we don't know.
He or she's reconnaissance missions.
I mean, I feel like it's the kind of thing that a guy would waste their time on, but who knows?
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, Agent 732 is out there doing their duty. So, all right, Max, I did want to give those shout outs, and I think we're all updated on giving Allan his shout out, but let's get down to another topic here, my friend. So, oh wow.
Oh my, how grand.
Yeah, that's pretty apropos. I like that, Max. Very, very good, man. Okay, Allan, I teased this, I don't know, a week or so ago, but I was on a demo. I'm doing a demo job right now.
Right.
Which reminded me of all sorts of things, including just the need for safety, the whatever. But I just wanted to share my experience and run it by, and we can round table this a little bit. But basically, I am in the process now of demolishing a bathroom, which is, I know people hear me on the show and they say, well, I thought you built decks and patio covers and things like that. Well, it's true, but if somebody's...
We do a little bit of everything.
If somebody wants it, I can do all these other things. So basically, there is a shower that, if you can imagine, it was sort of, I don't know what you call this shape, Allan. It was almost the shape of the Superman symbol. If you were looking straight down, it's not a square, but you know what I mean? It's kind of, it had a wedge cut out of it. It's five-sided, but it's not square. Okay. Well,
that kind of diamond cut where you got two sides are wider than the other, and you got the little faceted area around the backside of it.
Yeah, and
that came out of the 60s and 70s, as I recall.
It had issues, and maybe folks, you've encountered this too. Have you seen these showers where there's really no circulation in there? You have the shower doors, you walk in, and then when you're done, if you close it, that moisture is just kind of sitting around in there.
It just hangs.
It does, and then it can, what kind of problems that can create and everything. So she's wanting, for one thing, it felt like you're in a cave when you're inside because it's all closed in and everything. Right. So she's wanting these nifty new. So basically, I'm changing the entire footprint of the shower, and we've got a tile guy. We've got one of these glass guys, and all the walls are going to now be glass. It'll be square shaped on the footprint.
Okay.
So everything's coming out, including, underneath that floor, it's concrete. It's
right.
It's a form and everything. So, but man, it's just a reminder that I would say the worst part when you're doing demo work like this is the tile. You know how you talk about the laws of electricity, and they're really not laws, it's the theory of electricity.
It's kind of a guideline. Yeah.
You don't know what it's going to do. That's how breaking tile out. You might give it one hit and the entire piece falls out, and then you might have another and it shatters into tiny
1,000 little pieces. And
and if you do this and you're not wearing safety glasses, I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for it. If you get, this is face shield, this is and wear a mask. And even I would say, I've been wearing gloves for all of this too and everything, but man, the tile is not fun. It's
no, and this is where I'm going to throw in our little salute to that moving blanket. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, do you need this thing to keep that stuff from going everywhere?
Right.
It's got to fall. The thing to remember, as you're trying to remove stuff, think it through.
Right.
Because whatever you hit is going to fall. Yeah. And it's going down. Where are your feet?
Exactly.
Because that stuff, I'm thinking of one we did years ago, and it was, honestly, Joe, is one of those events where the underwall had gotten wet. This is before Wonderboard. Right. And they had put sheetrock underneath there, and that sheetrock had gotten old and had gotten moist. And the poor guy in the shower reached up and really was just tapping. He was just loosening the tiles. He was going to try to tray them down.
Yeah.
He was really being careful.
Using a little finesse.
He was using some finesse, and he got up there and got to tapping and tapping and tapping. And I swear he must be related to that squirrel from the Mammoth movie. Because suddenly a crack just went straight down the dead center of that wall. and both sides of it just started just peeling off the sheetrock.
Oh man!
And I mean, it was just a complete avalanche. And happily we had everything wrapped in moving blankets, so when it fell and began to collapse into itself, it didn't actually destroy the rest of the room.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But watching it do that, here's some guy in there being really careful because he liked the tiles. I figured he was going to try to reuse them.
Oh, he's
going to
try to salvage them.
And just a complete avalanche coming off that wall. And then, of course, underneath the wall, the sheetrock was moist. It was moldy. It was just terrible.
Well, that's the other reason to be masked up because man, you don't want to be breathing in black mold or
you
whatever.
don't know what's growing under there,
right?
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say was the first thing I did when I started doing well. For one thing, if possible, you cut the water off. Well, I couldn't cut the water off on this. Because there was it's a shower. There was no, unless I turned the water off to the whole house, I wasn't, so I had to use a lot of finesse. But what I did was I took the, the drain at the bottom. I don't want a bunch of stuff going down that drain. So I took some, the heavy, that heavy duty duct tape that's more like, I think they call it gaffer tape and everything. Right. And I closed up I put it over the, I put several layers over the drain so that nothing was going to get dust and debris and everything down the drain and all that. But when you're doing this, the reason I wanted to point it out is because, boy, you got to really be careful around that plumbing and don't just start whacking that wall with the where the faucet is or where the shower head is or anything. Because, man, even though you don't hit it necessarily, you're vibrating pipes, and we know what that could do. So you got to be really careful around that stuff.
The other thing is people don't realize how heavy that grout and grout dust and those little slivers are.
Yeah.
And if they're going down in the drain, they will make a slurry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're not going to melt or anything like sheetrock will. But
and even that, it'll just be a paste and it'll clog. Yeah,
but it all kind of clumps up in there together and starts making a disaster for maybe not this year, but next year when enough hair has gone down it. It's a great place for stuff to get hung up.
Right.
And now you're going to be in there with the roto-rooter trying to dredge this stuff out, or at least get it to move down the pipe.
Oh, yeah. The other thing I was going to mention is because this is just, this is stuff you and I learned. I'll be honest, I learned a lot of this the hard way, but just
we all did.
After years of experience, the first thing you should do if you're doing a project like this is go walk and look what's on the other side of that wall.
Oh, yes.
If you've got the China hutch there and the
move it, move it, yeah,
and pictures and everything like that, but also there may be electrical lines running back there. I've seen these videos where the guy whips out the sledgehammer and they're just going to town on everything. Man, interior demo work, you could probably get away with that if you're ripping your deck out, but man.
All right, if nobody lives there, if you haven't moved in yet, you have a little less to worry about.
Well, I don't know, Alan. You could knock a lot of things loose.
I treat everything like it's a loaded gun.
Right.
Because and this is where we get into 30 years of stupid. You just don't know what somebody put back there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And 30, 40 years ago, you don't know what wild idea somebody had.
Oh, yeah.
For some Peter Sellers Pink Panther movie shower design. No, seriously.
I know exactly what you're preaching to the choir, sir.
You know what I'm talking about. You open these up and you find like 8 water lines all capped off.
Right.
And you're like, what were you building? A car wash? You look at some of the crazy things people have done.
Yeah.
And they just kind of, we're tired of this. Okay, just cap it off and wall it over.
Yeah.
Or put up, the worst one I ever saw, Joe, was tile over tile.
Talk to me. I think I know where you're going. But
somebody had bought a 60s house with Mama Cass, we love the universe tile all over this bathroom.
Yeah.
And there wasn't 2 tiles the same color. This thing was just rainbow-licious, let me tell you. And then somebody had gone in the 80s and had just taken a sander and had roughed up the tiles on the walls and then tiled over it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
They
I'm
didn't
just
break the tiles down.
on the walls too.
They just went straight up. So you now had, much to our shock and surprise, a couple of years ago when everybody's kind of like, all right, yeah, the 80s called and they want their bathroom back.
Right.
We'd like to update this bathroom. But look at how weird, because we were looking at the bullnoses around the edge of the decorative tile, and these things were like kitchen thick.
I was gonna say it sounds like they'd be sticking out like a half.
Oh
an
yeah,
inch
they were.
or
They were
something. Like,
poking out, and we're
Yeah.
like, "What did they do here?" And we hit that first side and saw all that tile underneath, and just went, "Oh no, here we go!" Because now it was double destruction.
Oh boy. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and then the other thing, dust, which we preach from the choirs, or we
so much.
preach from the mountaintops. Basically, it's gonna get everywhere, and it won't feel like it at first, but
It will.
It'll just, if you can maybe. I like the best scenario is you get that plastic sheeting stuff
Yes.
with the zipper. That's a new development. Have you seen those where you
They
tape
use
it up
them all
and-
the time.
Yeah, and those are great. And I don't know. The big thing though is I just wanted to reiterate how unpredictable tile is to remove, and just how that one little corner that you pull up. And I would say also one thing I did was I took the my grinder to the job site, because it's just. I've got my pry bar and I've got the other punch chisel and everything. It's a nice thing to be able to go down and sharpen that thing every hour or so, because you know how dull they get, and it's always just that one errant swing that you get, and it dulls it up. But keep a variety of tools, and just don't
The other one,
Don't
take
just go
your
to town. Yeah.
Take
Use finesse.
your time. Yes.
and one other thing, it's going to take you 3 times longer than you think it will.
Oh, easily.
It always does. So
Easily.
anyway, well, we hope today's show doesn't take 3 times longer. Allan will be in trouble if it does. So anyway, this is Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to go to Allan's Week in Review.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
The baler can flatten a car engine. It can cut off your arm and crush your entire body without skipping a beat. How many people a year do you think get their arms cut off in a baler?
Baylor, I hardly know her.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Allan, Max learned that it really can flatten a car engine, and you should see his new coffee table.
Ooh.
Pretty cool, but don't help him move it in the house.
No.
Pretty good. Upcycle use of an inline 6.
There you go.
Absolutely. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text
With the
us.
baler.
Exactly. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, which people have been doing, and we'll get to that in a second.
Hey,
Yeah.
Joe, I think I left my car engines in my baler. Could you get them for me?
All right, yeah, thanks, Matt. He always carries a gag on way too long, but anyway, Allan, we've got a few messages that have come in, including through Tool Talk Radio's Facebook page. So we'll get to that in a minute. It's always a reminder to go to Tool Talk Radio on Facebook, and make sure you give us a like.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you share it. Make sure you scroll down and hit all the links. And usually we post. We don't waste your time.
Oh, no.
Allan, do we sell anything on Tool Talk? No.
No.
Are you sure about that?
We probably should start, but we don't. We're not there to give. We're there to put stuff that you'll like. A lot of our great moments in building history, we post videos about those and stuff. So, but anyway, before we get to your stuff, Allan, we've got a few messages to address. So, Max, what do you got over there?
So we got Keith on the text line, and they say, what about the older houses with 2 inches of concrete under the tile?
Oh, yeah. We know. So what era was that? Okay, Allan, my house was built in 1952, and we have that in both bathrooms. Now, on the upside, if we ever do get that big earthquake, that's the room I'm running into. But, I mean, okay, for what it's worth, I know that the floor and the walls, they literally have a 2-inch thing of concrete with the wiring running through it and everything. Is that How long did that go for? 'Cause they definitely didn't do it in the 70s.
No, that went on for about 20, 30 years. I mean, that's like a 30s, 40s, and 50s thing. I've run into it in older homes, and basically what it was kind of like a lot of times I see it in the Mid-South as chicken wire. They'll have chicken wire mesh in it, and then they will have concreted around that. And you'll find that in bathrooms when they were hanging those great big giant 100-pound sinks on the wall.
Oh, yeah.
You remember those monsters? Those things were
And they have the little spindly legs, and if those legs start coming loose,
then the whole wall will start to bow in.
Yeah. We had exactly those sinks in our bathroom.
Yeah, the best thing I found to do, if the concrete is actually in good shape, leave it alone.
Oh, we left it. Yeah.
I mean, just clean up the wall, clean up around it, and I mean, if it's in good shape, fantastic. If that ain't broke, don't fix it. However, if you get underneath there and it is starting to pop and crumble and all that, heaven help you, go get a good Sawzall with a full tilt, I'm destroying a car blade on it, and you're going to be whacking stuff out for a while.
It's a can of worms, though, Keith,
Yeah.
because, man, if you start on that,
awful.
you're going to have metal. I would
It's
say
sharp little metal pieces that will shred you.
my inclination would be because I could see parts maybe near the bottom of the where the tub meets the bottom of the by the faucets and everything, where that could possibly be rotted out or at least a little soft. My inclination would be to patch that and just leave and then go over.
Like I said,
because, man, taking it out is
if it's
brutal.
repairable or it's in decent shape, do not open that. Don't open that bag.
And it's got to come out with a sledgehammer, which is even worse to everything on the other. Your studs don't really appreciate, especially when there's sheetrock and everything in the living room, being whacked on and loosening everything up. So that's our thing. I guess our answer is just if you have it, leave it alone.
Yeah,
and patch it where needed.
If you don't have to mess with it, don't. If you do, just brace yourself.
This is kind of a longer question, Al. This came to us through our Facebook page from Susie, and so, gosh, it's funny what triggers people. But anyway, this is another. So I'm just going to read this. It says, listening to your shower demo, we have a very small shower in a rental we need redone. It's black and baby blue. So,
wow.
Back in the day, that sounds like the era. They like to get very colorful with the tiles. Sounds like a 60s
avant-garde time.
Thing.
Yeah.
Sounds like your upstairs restroom, Joe.
Yeah. I'd love to just rip it out. A teen can't even fit in it. How big are these teens we're talking about? So how hard would it be to demo that and just build shelves in its space? Can a handyman do that, or there are too many unknowns? I don't like the idea of a handyman doing that. Allan, thanks,
right.
Susie,
Well,
for the question. And
One, it's a bathroom.
It's got plumbing.
Got a lot of plumbing.
I think Chuck in his truck can do it.
Yeah. No, we're not doing that.
He'll say he can do it, and he'll get Dan in a van and lick it and stick it to help him.
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay, one, can you afford to lose a bathroom?
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
The big question. Now, if this is, if you've got a fair-sized house and this is they'll say it's got 2.5 baths, and this is that weird little bath they stuck under the stairs that.
There are bathrooms where the shower is literally separate, and then over here is a bathtub.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's what we're talking about here.
Again, the real question is, can you afford to lose a bathroom? Because bathrooms are the big selling point.
That's prime real estate.
A bathroom is what you add.
Right.
My next question would be, is it adjacent to a closet you could lose?
Oh, talk to me. That's a good idea, Allan.
Now, if you go to the room next door and you've got this gargantuan walk-in closet that backs up to it, real estate money-wise, just not aesthetically, but money-wise, you're better off with less closet and more bathroom.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to rip it all out anyway, you might want to look at and see, is there any available space that you could steal from something else and keep the bathroom. Now, again, if this is one of those ridiculous little Harry Potter-esque things that somebody just stuck in the building, we've run into those too.
Yeah.
And you can afford to lose it. It's not that bad to demo. It's a mess. But once you get it demoed, this is where you're going to want a plumber to come out and make sure before you turn this into a closet that you have safely eliminated sources of leaks.
Everything's got to be capped off.
Everything, yeah. And I mean, I don't care how many YouTube videos you watched on this. Please pay a professional plumber to come out and make sure that the plumbing is safe, because as Joe and I have told you 1,000 times, water is the enemy.
Yeah. Hey, Susie, one last question is you might look at the footprint. Is it possible to make this shower bigger? If you were to just rip everything out, can you make it bigger? Because these days, one of the really, I would call it game changing is we talked about glass technology.
Yes.
And really, 50 years ago, were people doing full glass walls and things? I don't think so. Not a whole lot. These days, instead of a wall, you have a full glass wall, which is what I'm putting in. And man, do those look good.
I'm thinking about a place I rented about 30 years ago, honestly, and it had the worst downstairs guest bathroom known to mankind.
Yeah.
And it was literally, I think I know what she's talking about. It was tucked away. It was kind of just off a hallway, and it was honestly under the stairs.
Oh,
and
like the Harry Potter one. So,
this was where you would have left Harry Potter with a cot,
okay.
in a bathroom.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely terrible. And if you've got one of those, and like I said, if you've got a sufficient number of other bathrooms available and you can lose this one,
sure,
not such a bad idea. However, I like the idea better of stealing some space if you can, or would it work better, as Joe said, if it was laid out differently?
Yeah. One last thing. It sounded like Susie didn't like the tile color, and I know she said it's small, but still, I mean, we're in the middle of the tiny house movement and everything, and people may not care if a shower's a little tight. I don't know. Maybe I just hate losing a functional shower.
You don't want to lose a functional bathroom if you can help it. Retiling, it's a lot of work, but it could be worth it if the tile is just that awful.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we sort of gave an answer, but I mean, there's too many variables. We haven't seen the bathroom, and so
you really need to look at this and think it through.
But I guess our agreement is I don't know that we just pulled the handyman from down the street in to do this.
No, not because of the plumbing. Yeah.
Okay, Allan, pretty good. We're going to get to Allan's weekend review in a minute, but first, let's talk about our good buddy Larry Brown from Brown Refrigeration. Bless
his heart, he's getting a workout.
Okay, Allan. I don't know that this matters, but I feel like it does. The other day, it was almost 80 degrees.
78 here in the Mid-South.
I was hot. It felt like a hot, muggy summer day, or at least spring day.
It's now 40 this morning.
And now it's 40. And then, I mean, just the roller coaster. I don't know. I still feel like that creates issues with your HVAC. Regardless, you want it functioning. You don't want to flip on the AC for the first time and have issues. Anyway, your HVAC system is a finely tuned instrument. I would dare say it's one of the most precision instruments in the home. I can't think of too many other things that have that many moving parts and that much importance and have to be functioning properly. So you don't want to just get you want to get a HVAC company in your corner that understands all the variables, that has the experience that Brown Refrigeration has. I mean, my gosh, they've been around since I can't even. I mean,
about 1980.
One day I'm going to look up when Kenny Rogers, the Gambler, was, because I guess the same year that came out. Yeah, it was about that. So anyway, but high tech. They're always up on the latest technology, and they're always ahead of the curve on anticipating what your needs are going to be, like when the refrigerants have changed and things like that. But also your HVAC system requires regular maintenance. And the maintenance, I mean, there's you definitely need to do this. It's negligible how cheap these are. I mean, they do these tune-up specials for, I don't want to give out prices over the air, but trust me, it's not that.
Right.
It's nothing.
The big thing is catch any issue while it's small.
Right. the other thing is you want it functioning at maximum capacity, and it's one of the few things in your home that will literally pay for itself. If it's functioning properly, you're going to notice it on your utility bills and everything. So, and of course, you want to incorporate the Remy Halo system so that you're getting the cleanest air possible, and you're getting air that's actually cleaning every surface that it lands on with their microscopic cleaning particulates. So, and you can control it all with your smart home technology. Right from your phone, and so that's a cool thing. Being able to be at work and just say, I'm going to be home in an hour. I'm going to start lowering the temperature a little bit and get the house ready. Also, financing. I don't know that we preach enough about that, but they have great financing because you may be in a situation where you have an unanticipated either repair or replacement, and you don't have to sweat it. They have some of the greatest financing out there. So great people, rock solid company. They've been around forever, and they're going to be around for a long time. So get in touch with the good people at Brown Refrigeration. You can call them directly at 901-362-1881, or you can go to their website, brownref.com. All right, Allan, we turn the floor over to you, sir.
Oh, the humanity.
Yeah.
Well,
pretty good. Isn't that what your alarm clock sounds like?
I think I'm going to make that my ringtone every time my client calls me.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. I'm going to piggyback right off of you with that tile.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to start in the bathroom, and my first cautionary tale of the week is that there is a wonderful little invention that has been around for decades and decades, and it is called the strainer drain.
Yeah.
And they're really not that hard to put in, especially if you're putting in a new kitchen sink or, better yet, a new bathroom sink. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for any of you out there that just got into your first house and you're having children, let me save you thousands of dollars and hours of pain of a little strainer drain is the replacement of the little pop-up in the center of the sink. And now you do give up the ability to stop the sink up and fill it up with water. Now,
you're talking about a replacement.
Oh, yeah. Now,
that's full commitment, Allan. But then again,
you do lose that. But let's face it, you have children. You don't want that because they're going to block it up. They're going to put a towel in it. Next thing you know, the dog's going to be swimming down the hall.
Well, Allan, for the few times a year that you do that, all you do is you just buy one of those little plugs, those rubber plugs, and you keep it under the sink.
You got a little plastic cover that can go over it, and now you can fill your sink up. The strainer drain keeps items larger than a pea from going down the drain. I just cannot talk enough about the weird calls I have had for what went down the sink, and everybody hopes it's still in the trap.
May I offer? I don't think this is a counterpoint, but I want to just offer another point of view on this. So, okay. I would say the strainer drain, that you're talking about is I'd say it's not a one size fits all. There's some homes that wouldn't benefit from a strainer drain. Okay, like you and I, we don't clog the sink up with hair. We're old. Okay, when I had 4 teenagers living at the house, I was constant. I mean, really, once every few months, I had to pull the stopper out of there, and you'd get the auger, and it was just just awful stuff. Well, if a sink doesn't get a lot of use, maybe it's not that big a deal, but maybe you put your little enzymes down there to keep it clean or something. So I would say it's a case-by-case situation for a strainer drain.
It is, but they're very inexpensive. They're not that bad to put in, and they can save you just all kinds of pain. Because in the past 2 weeks, I have had at least 4 calls of, well, Allan, it went down the drain.
Yeah.
So under you go, off comes the trap, and out comes the 300 straws. Not kidding. My
jewelry.
Wedding. Yeah. Oh my God, the My Wedding ring. Would you guys please quit wearing your rings when you do the dishes? Please stop doing that.
Yeah.
Just weird stuff. Just weird stuff down the drain, and now the sink doesn't drain.
I have a question.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
I got to be honest. I haven't used a wedding. I haven't used a strainer in years. We don't really need them. I guess. Well, I probably could use them, but anyway, here's the thing: we don't have them, but I know that they have a little screen, and it dips in the hole basically, and it sits on the top. Well, it occurred to me because I've seen times where they come loose or the water's blasting out and it shifts it, and things could still get underneath it. Did they make a magnetized one? Because a magnet one would be pretty nifty, I think.
They actually make them so they're installed, so they don't come out.
Now, I don't know if do you like that?
I like
the notion where you could pull it out and
no,
dump it.
I love the fact that you can have a flat strainer drain right across the bottom of a bathroom sink that does not budge, cannot be removed by a child, and will prevent the toothbrush from going down the hole.
How's it installed? Is it screw-in or is it?
It installs just like a normal drain.
So it twists in with the. I don't know, Al. I think this might be a point-counterpoint. I'm not sure I like that. I thought we were talking about something that's removable.
Either one, the removable one or the actually installed one. Now, this is, and again, I qualified this as people with the active household with that active bathroom sink, especially if you've got small children. Because you can always change it out later.
Well, that's the thing. It's
always,
not the end of the world if you have to just get another.
Well, but this is for 10 years of your life. You will not be taking the sink apart every week, fishing the Legos out of it and the children toys. And when the kids get big enough that this is no longer an issue, then you can always, it's time to get a new sink by then anyway. You're going to update your home. At that point, go back to a standard drain. Because that brings up my next one. When you're doing demo or you're really changing or cleaning up, it weighs more than you think it does. and this is a cautionary tale that got pinpointed last night as I was helping a friend of mine haul a hot water tank up attic stairs to the attic installation of the hot water tank.
Was it full of water still?
No, this was the empty one. But guess what we're going to have to haul out today?
Yeah.
The old one. And the old one, just in case you guys always wondered, old hot water tanks and old mattresses always weigh more than the originals.
I can guess why, but I'll let you.
No, go ahead.
Well,
Dive
it's
in.
probably full of corrosion and rust and
It's full of
deposits
calcium.
and calcium. Right.
It's full of calcium.
It's inside, it's starting to clog up like arteries or something.
Now,
like
the
that,
Mid-South, we have no idea how amazingly blessed we are because
got great
we have
water,
relatively soft artesian well water. For those of you listening to us in West Texas, please do not send us hate mail because you can make a ball out of your water and bounce it.
Yeah.
Water is tough. For those of you living in Milwaukee, your water is tough, really. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
We are really blessed, and we have this beautiful soft water, but it still has minerals in it. It's still water.
Yeah.
So it will increase the weight of it. Your mattress weighs a lot more because you're in it. That's your skin. That's your skin cells. Your mattress weighs more. When you're breaking up that tile, I'm going to tell people the world's greatest thing is a banker's box.
What's that?
It's a banker's box. You go to your local office supply store this time of year, and they have got pallets of these things for your records.
Oh.
They're very inexpensive, the little put-together
the
box.
Fireproof one or just...
No. These are little cheapy record storage boxes you buy by the box full.
Okay.
They're very inexpensive, but they're the size of 8.5 by 11, and they only hold so much.
Okay.
But they do have a double-folded bottom, which means they're great for carrying heavy items like paper. But the box is small enough that you can't fill it up to the point where you can't lift it.
Okay.
So when you're hauling tile and stuff out, especially when you're working upstairs, remember, whatever you tear out, you got to haul out.
Okay, so don't fill up 2 5-gallon buckets and think you're going to,
All right.
Well, you can. You're going to get a workout.
All right.
But,
and then my other one is be nice to your dumpster. Because
that's just good karma there. Allan.
Well,
yeah.
And that is because you can put, especially tile or flooring. You can actually get that garbage can so heavy that your garbage pickup service can't lift it.
Yeah, we've seen that. Yeah, you dump all the concrete. You gotta. Sometimes you might have to, depending on where you live, or if you have the ability, when you do demo work, you might have to do it in stages. You might have to make a pile outside on the driveway, or on the side of your house, and then just take it out in 3 or 4 loads over the course of 4 weeks.
Well, there are appropriate services to pick these things up, and at your big box store, you can even get a construction tarp, more or less bag, that you can put thousands of pounds of waste in and not clog up your local city service. So my cautionary tale is, because this is up to and including a commercial dumpster that a subcontractor at another building was doing flooring work. And instead of throwing their waste in the big contractor dumpster like they were supposed to, there is a little tiny cardboard dumpster that was closer.
Oh, boy. A cardboard dumpster? What kind of sounds like somebody left a box out.
Well, but no, it's a small dumpster that was designed for you to put your flattened cardboard in for recycling.
Oh, cardboard. Okay, I got
so
you.
It's a dumpster designed for this. It's a little 10, 15
I thought
yard.
you meant it was made of cardboard.
No. It's made of metal, but it's designed for recycling pickup or lighter duty stuff.
Okay, gotcha.
Their poor truck can't lift it.
Okay. I was waiting to hear a story of somebody trying to lift something this week and it went bad. Like
it
a hot
did.
water heater that flew down the stairs.
No, because they hooked the forks into this little dumpster and went to pick it up, and the back end of the truck came up in the air.
There we go.
That's
what I was looking for. Okay.
And it's like, all right,
that's
guys,
a Three Stooges moment there. So, yeah.
And then you get a really nasty phone call from the dumpster company.
Right.
They're not happy.
No.
So now we're going to have to get an excavator and dig out the dumpster so that the truck can pick it up.
Okay. Yeah. Boy, you got to calculate, physics.
You
We deal with
watch that
physics
weight,
every day,
people.
baby.
Watch that weight.
All right. Well, Tool Talk. This is the first hour of Tool Talk Radio in the can, Allan. Where did the time go? But never fear, folks. We've got hour 2 coming up, and especially we can't wait to dig our heels into great moments in building history, the St. Louis Gateway Arch.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. You can also message us through Facebook, like Susie's been doing this morning, Allan. At just go to Tool Talk Radio on Facebook. I don't know how much simpler it can be. Tool Talk Radio on Facebook.
There you go.
Make sure you like the page. Make sure you share the page, and make sure you scroll down and check out the links, including links to our past shows.
Yes.
Links to videos, and usually. I'm pretty punctual about getting the must-have item of the week posted before the show, and I did it today, Allan. So, I wanted to speaking of our Facebook page. So Susie clarified. If you're just tuning in, one of our listeners had a question about whether it's worth the effort to. She's got a small bathroom. We didn't know how small. She said she was debating whether to just rip the shower out or not, and. Once she just sent me some clarification, Allan. She said the bathroom is 5 by 5.
Oh my gosh.
It's got a shower, a sink, and a toilet. Yeah, Susie, rip that baby out of there.
Oh my gosh.
Make it a half bath. The big thing, like Allan had mentioned, though, is just make sure whoever does this caps everything off, especially the drain and the water lines and anything. You don't want to be trapping moisture or creating a situation where somebody's going to drive a nail through the wall and burst the pipe or something like that.
Well, the other thing is you really want to make sure that drain is taken care of, because when that drain trap dries out, it's going to let some ugly air from your sewer system back into your house.
Right.
So very seriously, please make sure that's professionally taken care of.
Yeah, but keep us posted, Susie. That's our recommendation. That's our professional assessment, you could say. So,
Yep.
Okay.
Get a pro.
Speaking of pros, Allan, let's get to this real quick. We want to talk about our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling, because you talk about a pro. Okay, go ahead.
I totally appreciate him today, as it's raining and wet, and my house and gutters are working fine.
Right. We like to say he takes care of the exterior armor plating of your home from top to bottom. The roofing, the gutters, the windows, the siding, painting, everything. That's his sort of thing. He's really leaning hard into that in 2023. You know, of course, he is the standard bearer for great roofing. He's at the cutting edge. He uses GAF products. He sticks with GAF because they're really at the front lines of innovation. They've came up with these great roofing systems years ago. And man, are those things. I love the notion of a system because it kind of expresses their approach. They don't just go in and throw a few shingles up. The entire thing is well thought out. That it's so well designed that they can offer a lifetime transferable warranty. I mean, these roofs just function more efficiently, and they last. They must obviously last forever because, I mean, if you can offer a lifetime transferable warranty, that's a pretty big deal. Also, Jay is a former insurance agent, which is a very useful thing because you may be in a situation where you have to make a claim for your homeowner's insurance because with roofing especially, that's one of those. It's your average person can't just look up there and make that assessment. You need an expert to navigate that whole process, and Jay is just great. That's what he did for us, Allan. You know, we had our roofs replaced that way. And as being a former insurance agent, he helps you navigate the process where it's really almost painless. I love it. And if you don't have a path forward with that, they have great financing as well. That's the other thing. Jay has a relationship with up to 30 lenders, and you can qualify in minutes. And that's cool. You can qualify. You do the application. You may qualify for 5 or 6 lenders. You pick the terms that work for you, and you're in business. But especially, I like the notion of a fully systemized exterior protection of your home. I don't know if I'm wording that right, Allan, but from top to bottom, he takes care of the roof, the gutters, the windows, the siding, really anything that's going to keep the enemy out, which is water. But gutters especially are something that you don't want Chuck in his truck to do.
No.
So that's something that requires precision installation. And
so simple yet so important.
It looks simple, but it's not, and it's the type of thing that if it's not designed properly, it's going to create more problems.
Exactly. It is those fine details that make all the difference.
Absolutely. So Jay is just a great guy to call, and he wants you to call him directly. You can get in touch with him at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. Okay, Max, hit it.
And now, great moments in building history.
Boy, I've been looking forward to this one, Allan. We've talked about this. We've all experienced this structure. So, Max, go ahead. I'm going to let you kick this off.
To begin this, I wanted to begin with a quote by Robert Duffy, a journalist from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. He said, "The Gateway Arch packs a significant symbolic wallop just by standing there. But the arch has a mission greater than being visually affecting. Its shape and monumental size suggest movement through time and space and invite inquiry into the complex, fascinating story of our national expansion."
Huh. That's very well put, Max. Gosh, I like he's right, though. That is it. Can I share, before we get going on this, can I just share my Gateway Arch experience, my first one?
By all means.
Okay, so as anybody that's listened to Tool Talk Radio knows, when I was younger, I grew up in Chicago, and then when I was 21, I went west, literally. I mean, I went to San Diego. I was really excited. I just went and took a job out there because I kind of had that George Bailey wanderlust where I wanted to go see the world. So I packed everything up I owned, and I was driving from Chicago to San Diego, which is a pretty long drive, Allan. It's
a couple of days.
Yeah. So I stopped in St. Louis because the way the trip worked out, I visited a friend of mine, and she took me to the St. Louis Arch, and it was about 8:00 at night, as I recall, and it was pretty quiet because I think it was a weekday. And walked up to it, and I was immediately like, "Oh my gosh, this thing's really interesting." And I went right up to the edge, and there was some clouds almost passing through the arch. And so when you looked up, it looked like a silver stairway. It looked like a silver sidewalk going into the clouds
Okay.
with stars. It was the coolest thing I had ever seen. And then I remember pulling out the next day and looking at it again, and I just thought, and it really did feel like when you went from when you passed through St. Louis, you really felt like you were going west. Like it just the terrain started to change, and then as I went, driving through the desert and everything, and it made a big impact on me. And I took my kids there years later, and they felt the same way. But it hits on so many things you and I talk about on the show all the time, which is why I'm glad we're covering it today, Allan. So
Okay. Well, it's well, let's start with the fact that it's huge. I mean, this thing is 630 feet tall.
that's
just a lot.
Have you gone up in the arch? I've never gone up.
I have never gone up in it. I have driven by it numerous times.
That's pretty high, especially when you're that exposed.
Well, here's the thing. You got to keep in mind, this thing was built 60 years ago.
Yeah, we should say 1963.
Yep.
Well, you said your birthday.
They actually began construction in 1963. And most of these monuments we're talking about are not new.
No.
So, I mean, you got to, we think of everything in terms of modern construction and modern capabilities. We've got lasers now. We've got satellite photos. We've got GPS and all this kind of stuff to guide us today. This was 60 years ago.
One of the reasons it's funny you mentioned that, Allan, because one of the reasons I love the St. Louis Arch is, we were just talked about it last week. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Yes. The look of this could not be simpler. It's an arch. It's got three, it's got like the triangular shape, but it's sort of, it ages well in terms of, it's not like it was overly, you wouldn't know what era it was built, really. It's just kind of, in 100 years from now, it's going to just, I think it's going
to be an arch. It's
right.
Be, it's completely clad in stainless steel. Mm-hmm. So when you do get the sun on it or the clouds or the stars, you get just a beautiful reflection of whatever's going on around it on the unit itself. It is as wide as it is tall. So when you're actually looking at it,
that's the optical illusion. It looks taller.
You kind of get it's a big tall thing. But as you drive around it and realize, no, it's 630 feet up that way and it's 630 feet apart.
Right.
Absolutely massive. And it is built as a weighted catenary arch, which means it is internally self-supportive.
Well, that's the fascinating part. Let me back up real quick, Allan, because I did all the research and I wanted to pay off. So the thing that was that I couldn't believe was how far back the discussion of this went. This goes back to 1935. The National Park Service was talking about this in 1935, and of course, we're in the middle of the Great Depression and things like that. But they basically dedicated that land that they were going to use that as a they were going to put some monument there. Right. Then they got talking about what that monument would be, and so we get into the 1940s, and of course now we're dealing with World War II and everything like that. But once the war ended, they started making some plans, and they put together a committee, and they decided to have an architectural contest. Which it's amazing how many times this happens. Where I think even going back to the Chicago World's Fair, where they get architects competing for things, and it's funny the results you get. And so they put together a contest, and they came up with where's the designer? I got him right here.
You're talking about old Sarin?
Sarin.
Yeah, Eero Sarin.
Eero Sarin. He was a Finnish-American architect, and so basically he came up with an arch. Now, originally, Allan, his idea was, if you look at the arch, it's basically a triangle in terms of its what do you call that? Its footprint at the bottom is a triangle, and then it goes up. I'm not really describing it well. He was going to do a rectangle, and then somebody advised him, no, the triangle's cooler. It's probably structurally it's gonna be more dramatic. I think things like that, and it's gonna structurally pay off better. So, but anyway, they designed it. 1949, he was approved to go, to do this, but then it took 20? How many years we're talking? We're talking 14 years.
Yeah, 14, 15 more years before they actually broke ground. Yeah.
Unfortunately, he didn't live to see it. He died in 1961, but they kept his plans. And then I guess once it got approved, they got to work in 1963. Here's the thing that's important to mention, though, Alan. This was pre-OSHA.
Oh, yeah.
And there were people out there speculating. There were people that were against this. It's all like any public project, you're going to have your supporters and the people that don't want it. And there was people predicting up to 13 people could die on this thing, Well, let's just say nobody died. That was one of the big triumphs, right?
Well, especially for the time.
Right.
And for the extreme height. And let's also throw in the claustrophobia of trying to work on this, because it's not a massive item.
No.
I mean, when you're looking at it, it's kind of like, well, that's 20 feet across. I said, yeah, but there's a lot of infrastructure in there, all cantilevering over each other, and there's not a lot of room in there.
Imagine going down a well. I don't care if a well is 10 or 20 feet wide. That is going to freak you. That. And the other thing the workers said was it was very disorienting because nothing is level. You're in there, and especially when you're inside. Like if you're outside, you can sort of at least see the horizon. You can see what's level. But the inside, they said, was very, very weird. It's, for one thing, it's dark.
It's all curved.
Then somebody, they said one thing they kept mentioning was you'd be in there welding, and it's, because they worked on it year round. So it's January, and somebody at the bottom opens the door, and they got like just a blast of cold air coming up. That'll wake you up.
Oh, yeah.
So
that'll get you.
But can you talk about the structure? Because the way it was built, I mean, for one thing, they had to build it on two sides, obviously. Mm-hmm. And then they had to, whoever did the engineering and the math on this thing to make sure that they actually met up in the middle. That's the marvel to me. I mean, you're talking about starting 630 feet apart and hoping 630 feet in the air, you're going to meet.
Yeah.
And that part's really interesting.
And at the point where they meet, do you know the deep secret?
Well, I know a secret. Is it? I don't know if it's the one you're going to talk about, but
what secret you got?
Well, I have that. It's okay. So these basically they built them in triangular chunks, you could say, and they built almost like a railway system that it moved the cranes up on rails as they went and everything. And keep in mind, these guys weren't even wearing harnesses. That's a macho stupidity in my opinion. I'm sorry.
It was the time, dude.
But basically, so they had to do some serious math and calculations, and I thought that the last piece, the last keystone at the top was 8 feet wide, and from what I'm seeing, they said when they got there, the opening was 2.5 feet apart, so they had to pry it open. Now, I don't know if that was by design, but they said they had to use these heavy jacks to force it open, drop the 8-foot section in there, then it kind of firmly closed it shut. But was that by design, Alan, or something? Because to me, it seems like the worst situation would be if it's too wide. Well, you don't want the stresses to pull it apart.
Well, exactly. What you wanted was them coming together. And when they got finished up with that, they welded a time capsule into the top of the arch.
Oh, now that's cool. Okay.
Of all the people that lived in the area and everything all signed of petition style, just kind of we were here when this was built. Over 700,000 people signed this.
Oh, that's cool.
And it is sealed in the time capsule up there.
Yeah.
So that is just kind of one of those weird, cool things. But now here's the other one of they had to design this whole metal structure to also dissipate electricity.
Well, sure, that thing's a lightning rod. I mean,
it gets hit
I see
by
videos
lightning.
Of it getting hit by lightning.
It gets hit by lightning. So it's kind of like, okay. So, these are things, and you had to think about them. Now, in order to cantilever this, now we've talked about this before when talking about the Grand Canyon, talking about how you can have things suspended out in space, but they're counterlevered so that they're self-supported.
Right.
But now we have this giant arch. So How deep do you think they had to dig in the foundations to this?
Oh, you know what? I didn't research that part. How deep did they go, Alan?
They had to go down 60 feet per side
I don't
to
doubt
put
it.
in the foundation. So basically,
Sure.
this thing is installed like a tooth.
You got 60-foot roots.
You have
yeah.
60-foot roots on either side of that arch.
Right.
So that when you began, or like when you talked at the very top, when they had to pry that apart just a little bit to put in that last segment, the way that this is designed, arched up like that, it leans towards each other,
Right.
thus making it self-supporting, but they can only move so far because of the depth of the foundation.
I wanted to say something about that too, because the thing is, when you're building a structure like that, they also it has to have a certain level of flexibility. It can't just be rigid. And I cannot imagine. I wanted to share one other insight about working on an arch, because in my own small way, I feel like I can really appreciate what these workmen went through. And so I was my church where I go hired me to do a faux finish on the arch above the altar, which is about 40 feet in the air. And I was on a scaffold, which to me, I've been on high ladders, but a scaffold is a much different scenario. And this scaffold had just this little bit of wobble to it. And I knew, in my mind, I'm like, I know it's not going to fall over. I know it's sound enough, but it was the most unsettling thing. And then as I would work and it started to go up, I got to where I almost couldn't do this. It was really unnerving to be, because you feel like you're just freestanding. I cannot even imagine what it is to be 600 feet in the air and it open on all sides, and the wind comes, and these guys must have had nerves of steel, because I don't think I could do it, Alan. I mean, you got to be a special breed to do something like that.
Well, any of these great monuments, and I'll go back to the wonderful Mr. Eiffel, who was looking at this and went, we can build this. I think it's just the adventure of being involved in something like this that makes your mind overcome the danger and go with the thrill that you're doing something nobody else has done.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good metaphor for the predecessors that they were paying homage to, the like people like Lewis and Clark and Thomas Jefferson, who started with this expansion stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because there are, let's talk a little bit about this too, because obviously if I know there were Native American groups that probably weren't happy about this monument, and you can understand. I mean, our history is never just hunky dory. There's always the ups and the downs and everything. And
history is always lopsided, my friend.
And so maybe they didn't like the Western expansion and all that. I do want to say in that realm too, something positive came out of this. So if you remember, this is in the middle of the Civil Rights era. This is 1964, and a man named Percy Green, he led a protest because the hiring practices weren't equal at that point, and he climbed part of the arch. And the long and short of it was his protest involving the arch actually led to some really good legislation that for equal opportunity employment, and it some good came out of it. And but we're talking about architecture, and I mean there are fewer things more interesting than the St. Louis Arch. It's just,
okay. So now the arch is actually three different types of structures. You actually have the curved arch itself, which is above the 300-foot level,
right?
And then you have the two pillars. So
of
how long do you think those pillars could still be standing?
Oh, so they age this thing out. What is it?
They figure, I love the show After Humans.
Right.
And they were talking about the St. Louis Arch, and they were talking about that while the actual top of the arch itself is susceptible to high winds, and without maintenance, sooner or later, something's going to get it. But those pillars could be there for another 5,000 years.
That's what I'm talking about. Boom. That's pretty interesting. We'll probably have a few parting thoughts when we come back. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
But hear me and hear me well. The day will come. Oh, yes. Mark my word. Your day of reckoning is coming, when an evil wind will blow through your little play world and wipe that smug smile off your face. And I'll be there in all my glory. watching as it all comes crumbling down.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of
Was
Memphis.
that at my last corporate meeting?
Yeah, no kidding. I've been waiting for that day forever, Alan, but the day will come. It's going to fall upon Max, too. That's what I'm waiting for.
Joe, we are just blessed with lots of texts today.
Yeah, they're kind of disrupting the flow, but no.
And
What do
I
we got?
love it.
What did you get?
Yet another suggestion for Susan on her tiny bathroom issue.
Susie, yeah.
Susie, I'm sorry. Of if you've checked out any of the latest editions of Home and Garden, she might want to consider turning it into a full wet room bathroom.
Huh, okay.
Which would be basically turning it into a multifunction, really big shower. Just kind of cool looking. I was just, we got the suggestion, so I popped it up real quick, and it was like, oh,
okay.
That's an interesting twist on what to do with a tiny bathroom.
Actually, I forgot to even say who. People might just be turning on the radio anyway. Alan, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Alan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us like everybody's been doing this morning at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go to Tool Talk Radio's Facebook page and check out all the action over there. And we've been trying to help one of our listeners, Susie, with her drama. She's got a 5x5 bathroom that is just not working for her anymore. And Alan is suggesting, I don't know that I like that. That could be another counterpoint. I've seen these designs where basically everything's open.
Right.
I don't like that at all, man. That sounds like a slip and fall situation. It sounds like humidity on the toilet that we don't need. It sounds.
I totally thought that until I had a room at one of our convention hotels that actually featured a wet room bathroom.
Was it bigger than 5x5?
Actually, not by much. It was fairly compact, but I gotta tell you, it was a very pleasant experience.
I don't know, man.
I
sounds
felt
like a
that
point
way until I
counterpoint
stayed
coming.
in one. So
Okay.
I'm going to throw it out there. It's just an option. She can go explore before she starts tearing out a room.
Yeah.
So it is an option.
And also, if you're just tuning in, boy, we had a really interesting discussion and great moments in building history about the St. Louis Gateway Arch. And it's one of those topics where I feel like everybody's probably very familiar. I'm sure many of our listeners have visited the arch and probably even gone up in there. But the thing is, when you research it, you find out all these interesting details and the construction and the backstory. Everything about it's very interesting, and nobody died building it. So,
and the cool thing is the systems that were developed building this thing show up later in home construction when we begin looking at multi-story houses and how they're supported. What the old-fashioned way was put in tons and tons of ridge beams, and you basically built it like a giant cake on top of layers. And with the lessons learned in a lot of these monuments, especially with like counterlevering, you discovered that you could use one big beam down the center with the proper supports, and it left you free to do so much else with the home and not waste so much infrastructure space and give you more living space.
Yeah, absolutely.
And still be just as safe and just as strong.
This is making me think of something else, Alan, because, we talked about eras when people would build things just because, there's things that were built that you're like, how the heck did they do this? Like, how did they build the Golden Gate Bridge or the Empire State Building or things like it? And it was just basically, we're going to do this. We're this, and the St. Louis Arch is the same way. And the thing is though, you could almost say the St. Louis Arch, it's a monument, it's a piece of art, but you didn't. It's not a. It's not a tower or it's not a building where you're going to have businesses and it's going to generate money or anything. It's basically they're building it for the sake of building it. We don't get enough of that anymore. I kind of like that notion. The money that it generates for people paying to go up inside of it can't be that much. Maybe that's enough to cover the maintenance. So this is just a structure for the sake of, I don't know. something about it I really like, you know.
Well, that is where you get into. Now we've talked about city infrastructure in the past,
Right.
and having an appropriate amount of green space, white space. In the case of Memphis, we'll salute taking old railway tracks, and instead of ripping them out, we now have a beautiful green line.
Good point. Yeah, exactly.
So, here we have got a lot of tracks left over from 1900 that used to run, around the county, around Memphis, bringing supplies in. Well, those routes have been changed over the years, but instead of just ignoring it, we've actually embraced it, and now there are beautiful bike trails, jogging trails and what's very fun, though, is, you looked at the problem and went, so how are you going to get that, this jogging trail across a 6-lane street?
Oh, yeah, which is still a little dicey in some.
But they came up with great innovative ideas of basically way stations in the center of the street so that you came across under the light. You're nice and safe. You're behind concrete barriers in the center, so you're nice and safe. You cross on the other side under a light. And they solved, basically some pretty big problems, some pretty simple ways.
Well, I don't know. How do we get from the arch to that? And you always do that. You take me into that. But I'm talking about a structure that is basically a piece of art or a monument just for the sake of it. But Memphis, step up. We want something like that. So I don't know where. Allan's house, you have your 50-foot Godzilla statue in the front yard.
We can have the 100-foot Elvis guitar.
Yeah. Let's get something like that.
Well, there's a giant Buddha sitting out there on South Mendenhall.
Yeah, so that's what we want. But anyway, all right, we better move along if we're going to get to everything. So, all right, Max, hit it. Let's get to our must-have item of the week, which I've already posted on our Facebook page, Allan. And I called this the life-saving. I don't know that it's life-saving, but tell people what I'm holding
I tell
up.
you what, that is aggravation saving.
Right.
You have the portable telescoping pocket-size magnet.
Yeah, and I'm keeping it away from all the electronics in this room.
Yeah,
because
please
that's
don't.
asking
No,
for
you're
trouble.
not. You just tried to magnetize the microphone.
No, I didn't ditch. Don't listen to him.
Oh, my gosh. You drop something, especially working in an air conditioner, around a car, or any tight area, and that thing will save you from becoming a raving lunatic.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's basically, it looks like a big pen with a magnet on the end. But this one, for me, this one is, because everybody immediately jumps to car, working on cars. But no,
air conditioners.
Well, okay, I was doing demo work, and I had some walls that were open, but in fact, one wall, I only took off the top half. So the bottom, I have all these exposed studs, and if a wrench or a screwdriver or anything falls in there, just pull out the old magnet and get it in. Because you're not going to reach your arm in there.
No.
It's 5 feet deep.
Now,
so.
I'm going to throw in, we have mentioned these items before. With that, I also have the wire telescoping grabber, which is the one that has the 3 little wires that come out of the end and grab things. And I also throw in the pair of chopsticks.
Chopsticks are good for getting under things. And they're what?
Just that tiny
20
little
cents a
tight
piece
little
or something,
area,
yeah.
and you can just reach down in there and pick up that nut that fell right down where your fingers won't reach it.
Right. So yeah, pretty simple, but it's one of the, and I think it's like $5. It's if that. So that's one to keep in your toolbox, but just keep in mind that's a pretty strong magnet, and keep it away from your phone and your other electronics.
Let me throw in the other thing. When you're working outside and you drop a nail or a screw.
Oh yeah.
And it disappears into the grass, and it is waiting on you to cut the grass.
Yeah.
That thing becomes a lifesaver. You wand back and forth a little bit, and you hear that little tick.
Yeah.
And you're like, yes, I'm not going to step on this later.
No, these things are great. So, but it's a straightforward, simple mechanism, but we never overlook the obvious when it comes to that. So, all right, Allan, let's shift gears. We've been teasing this earlier in the show, and it's time to do it. We're throwing this over to you. I have nothing useful to contribute, but
I can contribute that.
Okay, there you go, Matt. You wanted to talk about gardening. It's okay, Allan. we've got flowers in our backyard that are blooming.
Yes.
In February.
Yes.
Well, they don't know what's going on. This is another one of these weird winters. I was in T-shirts and shorts the other day, and
somebody told me yesterday
February,
we're having winter rom-com weather. And I said, all right, what is that? And I said, the romantic comedy where Winter gets mad and storms out of the room and then comes back a few minutes later and goes,
storms.
And another thing.
Yeah.
And then runs out again and then comes back. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, our plants love this, don't they, Allan? So,
my yard it's on. So being
your yard is not, I feel like people, if they're new to Tool Talk Radio, they need to understand your yard is not typical. Your yard is its own.
I have a
ecosystem.
botanical garden.
Right.
I have a botanical
When is it going to
garden.
get national park status?
Yeah,
I'm really kind of getting there. I'm just hoping nothing endangered moves in. So,
right.
Yes.
And by the way, folks, if the grid goes down, go to Allan's house because he's got every kind of food and plant back there.
And I have really new power inverters, which I'm really digging.
Yeah.
Okay. What do I mean by pre-gardening?
Yeah.
Well, pre-gardening in the Mid-South is right now we're getting kind of the hot and cold weather. So you don't want to put out plants yet, but landscaping and gardening is a huge part of DIY and home ownership.
Oh, yeah.
And there is a big trend right now, even in some parts of the country, Joe, it's not even legal to have a lawn anymore.
Oh, well, because of water restrictions. My daughter, I told you, lives in New Mexico. She has gravel, decorative gravel. I mean, I do like some greenery, but I understand why they.
But here we go. I'm going to say the legacy thinking of the quote unquote lawn is really kind of biting the dust because the indoors and the outdoors are merging. You build a lot of patios. You build a lot of pergolas. You've built docks. These are all extensions of bringing the inside of the house to the outside of the house.
That's a good point. People like open, airy spaces that tie into the...
You and I have worked on a project together that was literally building an outdoor kitchen. Full patio, gargantuan stone structures. I mean,
that's true.
People are living more and more and more between both worlds.
Yep, that's a good point.
So when I say pre-gardening, now while the vegetation is down, I got laughed at a job site last week because I showed up with a lawnmower, and everybody's looking at me going,
"I'm not laughing because it's."
They're all looking at me going, "There ain't no lawn, there ain't nothing out here," and I went, but let me show you what there is, and you could see where the privet was trying to grow up in some areas, and the little vines were getting there, but because there wasn't all covered and hidden in vegetation, it was really fast and simple to go ahead and trim up and clean up these areas without having to fight your way through the bushes, the mosquitoes, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a nice warm day, so I went ahead and got all that done, and I probably got 2 weeks worth of gardening done in about an hour and a half.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Now, the other thing is, do you want to put in your beds now? Do you want to, and what I mean by that is the bed itself, not the plants in the bed. But over the next few weeks, as we have Jekyll and Hyde weather, today it's wet and it's cold and it's raining, so you're not going to get out there. But Sunday, it's going to be lovely and sunshiny, and it's going to have a moderate temperature. Well, now's not a bad time to get out there with a little can of spray paint and go, I've always wanted to put in a raised bed right here. And
mark it out with the...
Mark your territory out.
Check for water lines. Get somebody to...
Exactly.
What is that number? 811?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Check for power lines. Check for water lines.
Gas lines.
Dig a little test
underground
hole.
electricity.
Make sure you're not, not hitting something you don't want to hit. Now's the perfect time to get a lot of that. And this doesn't take long. A friend of mine wants me to put in a new fire pit.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So, now's the perfect time to let's go ahead and get this laid out now before we're fighting the grass, before we're fighting all the vegetation. Let's lay it out now. Let's go ahead and cut it out now, and we can go ahead and get it sprayed, sanded, and start putting in the blocks so that when the season actually hits here 6 weeks away. We're
Yeah.
only 6 weeks away.
If that. Yeah.
If that. It might be 4 weeks at this point. It might be next weekend.
Right.
Now is the perfect time to begin looking at that. Also, look at your patio. And another big thing about pre-gardening is look at where the water's going. Today is a perfect day for that. It's not, all right, for those of you who are in the frozen north, I am so sorry. My gosh, you're just getting beat up this
Michigan
weekend.
got really beat up with their ice storms.
Yeah,
So,
they're getting beat up from California to South Carolina.
Right.
So for those of you listening outside of the Mid-South, just wait a week. The temperatures are going to shift back. It's going to get warm again. You can get out there and start laying out where do you want to put stuff, where's a good location for it, and what do you need to fix?
Yeah. Do it now. I think you're right, though, because it's like it may not be top of mind to you because you look out and, everything's just the trees are bare, the whatever. But yeah, like you said,
last week,
especially if you have branches to trim, it's way easier to do it when
it's so easy to get out there now and nip that stuff off and just go make you a little brush pile over there and get rid of it. A little pre-gardening will make the rest of your year.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is one of these topics, Joe, that's going to keep getting bigger.
Yeah.
People are bringing the outside in, and a lot of people are bringing the inside out.
Absolutely.
Because we're going to see more. I predict this summer I will probably get involved in at least half a dozen outside kitchen projects.
Yeah. Oh, that's hot. Everybody's
the
wanting
big
those.
grill, the actually having running water outside,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
actually having a sink.
Yep.
These are going to be bigger and bigger topics as people are worried less and less about the lawn and more about what can we do besides just raise grass.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
So now's not a bad time.
Okay.
So water features, plan them out. But, a day like today is not a bad day to take a few minutes to go when it's not raining. Go look and see where that water's going.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference as the rest of the year unwraps and could possibly save a foundation on your house.
Yeah. Bingo. So, all right, good stuff, Allan. And we'll be following. One thing you're guilty of, though, Allan, I don't know if you post enough pictures. You post pictures on your personal Facebook page all the time of your yard, but you don't put them on Tool Talk's page. So maybe we need a little more of that this year
actually,
as things start coming in.
We're actually going to have a segment coming up shortly on that will be with Dark Oak Media and ToolTalkRadio.com.
Okay.
Where we're going to start doing gardening videos.
There we go. So, all right. Well, hey, Allan, as long as we're talking about what is going on with Dark Oak Media, because among other things, hats off, I got to tell you, you've really beefed up our YouTube page and everything, but you've been busy. So what's going on with all this stuff?
Well, that is the number one news is, of course, on YouTube. We have full podcast status around the world, so you can easily binge Tool Talk Radio, Geek Tank Radio, or The Food Dude, as I'm guilty of. Mm-hmm. So all of that is really good. Another one that is just absolutely taking everybody by storm is cooking in a tiny kitchen.
Well,
with
think
our
of how
buddy
practical
Scott
that
J.
is
Carroll.
for some people.
He is having a lot of fun and is getting a huge response to that.
Yeah.
So just pop over to ToolTalkRadio.com. Go to our Spotify or YouTube channels. Like us. Please subscribe to us. And that way you can keep up with us.
Yeah.
Take us anywhere you want, anywhere in the world.
And if you're a content creator, Allan... He's very open-minded in what he'll put on his channel. Let's put it that way. So, which is good. You may have something really unique out there, and maybe you'll wind up on TV. So there you go.
Yep, we're actually cooking on Tiny Kitchen. Just got picked up by Geeky Side TV on Roku television.
Well, there you go. So, all right, Allan, on my end, I've got I don't know if this is new, but okay, you've heard me in the past tell people that I really love outdoor wood projects. Basically, if you have a screened-in porch, if you have a patio cover that you want built, a pergola, a deck. I really love building decks and everything, but I think I'm going to add to my repertoire, Allan. I told you that somebody wants me to build him a catio, And
I am so down. I will work for you for free on that.
Well,
one.
the more I'm looking at the way we talk about, bringing the outdoors in, and the way we're talking about unique pet treatments.
Yes.
If you want like the best doghouse in the neighborhood, or if you've got a unique pet project, that you would like built, give me a call, because I think I'm going to start going in that direction. I want that challenge.
I told you that years ago. It is awesome building these things.
If you've got a ferret nest that you want built out in the backyard, I don't know. But get in touch with me. You can call me directly at 901-921-7105 or go to thorshomes.com, and you'll see. You know what I don't plug, Allan? The name of my business is Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, although my website's thorshomes.com. It always kind of, whatever. I couldn't get that domain name, but whatever.
You didn't call me fast enough.
I know. So, but thorshomes.com. So, all right, Max, let's get to this, because I've teased it enough, and we didn't, we've missed it the last week or so, but it's time to exchange some tool tales. And Max, I just want to say one thing, because last week we ran out of time. I was the only one that got my story in, and I was talking about how much I was enjoying using my my grinder this week to sharpen the tools for that demolition job. I forgot to mention one other thing. Grinders are very affordable. They're probably, I don't know, $60 or $70. And there is something very satisfying about the smell of a freshly sharpened tool. You know what I'm talking about, Allan, right?
Yes, I do.
Sort of a smoky, kind of metallic-y, cool. And it smells sharp. I know it sounds dumb, but it's got a smell to it.
No. Anybody that's ever used one of those knows exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And once again, I advocate working in a well-lit and well-ventilated area. However, I will throw in, if you are using a grinder, especially cleaning up welds on a large project, and you do it right around dusk, you look so impressive.
Oh, your neighbors are going to be jealous. Yep. You're going to look like the old blacksmith or something. So, but Max, I want to throw this to you, because you've got a tale called All or Nothing that I'm intrigued by.
Well, it had to do back when I did much more cosplaying back in the day. And All or Nothing is related to the fact that I learned how to use a leather awl and work with like vinyl and everything for cosplay purposes. Because
you're talking about costuming, because some people don't know what cosplay is.
Costume play is the abbreviation, is what cosplay is.
Making high-end costumes.
So what cosplay I did for that was, if anyone's familiar with the anime Attack on Titan, they have this equipment called maneuver gear, and it's these leather straps that go all around their body and everything to help them like move through space and everything. And so I had to learn how to like web leather and everything and use awls and rivets in order to like secure the leather in place.
To attach it to wood. The thing about, because I saw your maneuver gear, Max, and it's metal, leather, wood. It's all these elements, even fiberglass, I believe, right? There's different treatments, and the awl came in handy.
Yeah, it was all or nothing.
Okay, because it pokes the holes. It does.
Well, when you
But cosplayers are good craftspeople. I'm just telling you, they know a lot of things. So,
as I love to say, when you cross the streams and begin mixing skill sets, it is shocking and amazing what easy things you can come up with, because directly related to what he's doing, if you want to clean up your yard easy, make yourself a stick carrier, which is just basically a sling and a couple of handles. But it's going to be, as he put it, using the awl, the punch, and the tie-ins.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's good. And I would say, folks, if you're totally new to this stuff, if you've never seen it, go get on YouTube and watch cosplayers at work, and you're going to see some real great craftspeople. So, wow, there's the music, Allan. Another show in the can, and man, I feel like we could go for another 2 hours.
Easy.
But we can't. You've been listening to another action-packed episode of Tool Talk Radio. It's time to get out of here. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.